Hello, I'm Fidel Fernando, looking ahead to Sri Lanka's campaign at the Men's T20 World Cup.
T20 World Cup is back, and so is our go-to cricket guru, Fidel Fernando.
It doesn't really seem like Sri Lanka have had a huge amount of preparation, a huge amount of time to kind of work on their strategies, to bed down strategies, to improve aspects of their games that are lacking a little bit. And it's because it's such a young squad, right? There's only Kusal Perez, the only player who's got more than 50 T20 internationals on his record, and everyone else is kind of learning the ropes. Even the really good players, players like one in the Hasaranga, are still fairly inexperienced in T20 internationals. So because of that, I'm not sure that they go into this and they don't go into this World Cup as a complete outfit. They don't go in, say, if you look back to 2014 when Sri Lanka won, they went into that tournament with a lot of their bases covered. This is a very, very different team. They've got a lot of kind of Achilles heels, if you can call it that. It's almost like an Achilles complete body, but I think the thinking behind naming such a young squad is that maybe in future World Cups there'll be, this group of players will be a little bit more experienced. Maybe in 3 or 4 years' time they'll be serious contenders at a World Cup. This time I think they do go in, with very managed expectations. Though miracles do happen, and sometimes do happen in Sri Lankan cricket. I think there are a couple of areas. I think mainly, if you could kind of broad brush it, I think the batting definitely has there's lots of room for error. It's not unusual to find Sri Lanka often, 50 for 5. We've seen that in the T20s over the last few months even, against India, against South Africa, and even against Oman. There were a couple of times when the top order really didn't fire, and it took some really intense rebuilding to get Sri Lanka to a good stage. So I think that is probably where the biggest holes are. Firepower is another area. I think Sri Lanka don't have the kind of power hitters that many other teams have gone to the T20 World Cup with. They have some power hitting potential, but there's a lot of accumulators in that top order as well. And when it comes to kind of death overs hitting, that's where I worry about Sri Lanka a little bit. Can they really, even if their top order delivers them into a good position, which is a big if, the top order hasn't consistently done that, but even if they can get them into a good position, do Sri Lanka have the firepower at numbers 5, 6, 7, 8 to really take advantage of the last 5, 6 overs of a T20 World Cup? I also think that the death bowling, the T20 death bowling is also very much a work in progress. Dushmantha Chamira is a fantastic bowler and has got a lot of strengths, but probably variety and death overs bowling is not his best suit, and he's very much the bowler that will be expected to lead that seam attack towards the back end of an innings. There's a lot more, they're definitely lacking in a bit of skill, and they're lacking in a bit of battle readiness. So I think, yeah, the death overs bowling could also use a bit of work. Yeah, I mean, both those potential groups are tough. I mean, I don't know if there's a group that's obviously easier than the other. I think they're both very, very difficult groups. I think Sri Lanka shouldn't go into it, thinking anything other than we have to top our qualifying group. They're playing Ireland, Netherlands, and Namibia. And Ireland, Netherlands playing in conditions unlike their home conditions in kind of low, slower pitches. Ireland have just lost a T20 series to the UAE, by the way. So Sri Lanka should kind of aim to beat those teams, and should aim to beat them quite comfortably. Namibia also kind of very much a team that's just starting to kind of gain momentum. So Sri Lanka shouldn't at any stage think about finishing anything other than top in their group. That's not to say it's going to be easy. I think these are all teams that can surprise anyone, and Sri Lanka are very capable of having bad days when one of these teams could take them down. But yeah, definitely finishing top of the group would be a bigger confidence booster. I think if they drop one of the games in the qualifying stage, that's not going to kind of set them up nicely for the main draw. Wanindu Hasaranga easily the best player in the team at the moment, and given what he adds with not just with the ball but in the field, and hopefully we haven't seen the best of his batting in the last couple of months, but hopefully his batting kind of gets back up there as well, and he produces the kind of performances we saw from him on that England tour early in the year. I think he is very much Sri Lanka are going to rely on him a lot through those middle overs. And I would, you could argue that they already rely on him a little bit too much. Dushmantha Chameera is the other one. I think really important for setting the tone at the top of the or top of the innings. Can unsettle those top order batsmen with his pace, and even through the middle overs he can come in and bowl well at the middle order batters as well from the opposition. And he's someone who's kind of worked on his accuracy. Does seem to be able to execute, although he doesn't have a lot of variety in his bowling, he seems to be able to execute his plans pretty well. So I think those are the two big kind of players if they have good tournaments. I also think on the batting front, if Dasun Shanaka as kind of that lower order finisher, if he has a good tournament with the bat, then Sri Lanka probably will have a half decent World Cup. Yeah. Barnacle Rajapaksa is someone who has played a couple of really good innings for Sri Lanka. I think one against India a couple of months back, recently against Oman, and then there was one good innings against South Africa as well. But has he done it consistently enough? His domestic record in T20s is not great, and I think a lot of good attacks. His batting technique is also quite unusual. Really good to watch when he gets going because he's got such great hands. But doesn't move his feet a lot. And I think there are bowlers around the world who look at that and think there's a way to expose this guy. So I think he's someone who I think would have to really convince everyone that he deserves his spot in the team, in the 11. His fielding also hasn't been massively impressive over the last few months, but Sri Lanka have picked him, and he's obviously a player of substantial potential. We've seen that in his better innings. We've seen how he can really take a bowling attack apart. He just needs to do it more consistently. I mean, Dasun Shanaka is what we've ended up with after a year of changing through so many captains, or a couple of years changing through so many captains. He's as good a choice as anybody else. I think there's no one in that that squad that stands out being like he definitely has to be captain over anyone else. But Shanaka has been making a good fist of it, I think, in the last few months. His captaincy is obviously still very new. He's still learning about how to lead the team, about T20 strategy. So I think it would be great for him to have a good tournament with the bat. I think that'll do his confidence a world of good. He's definitely got his work cut out for him in terms of strategy, because Sri Lanka have got two bowlers, the ones I mentioned, Wanindu Hasaranga and Dushmantha Chameera, who are substantially better than everyone else in that bowling attack, or go into the World Cup, by far the two best bowlers. So the way he manages those two bowlers, how do you maximize those 8 overs in an innings, is going to be really, really key to how well Sri Lanka perform. I think who does he bowl them against? Which kind of batters, which kind of matchups does he kind of think about when he brings them on to bowl? That is going to be really important, and hopefully he does have a good amount of statistical and data kind of related support, and they've also got Mahela Jayawardene in the back room, and you couldn't really think of anyone better to help support him as a captain as well. Well, I mean, if Dinesh Chandimal plays, I think he'll probably take that role. It'll be between him and Kusal Pereira, but I think Chandimal's keeping has been reasonably good, and if he's in the 11, then I think he should probably take the gloves. I mean, I don't think he's going to come in and kind of override what the coaching staff have been doing. I mean, he's coming in pretty fresh into this group, and Mickey Arthur and the batting coaches, Tom Moody, etc., have been with the team a lot longer, and so they'll have their specific ways of doing things. But I think Mahela Jayawardene's got enough experience working with so many teams around the world across so many formats, in addition to his own stellar international career, that he'll kind of probably just play a role in trying to get the best out of the players that are there, and maybe helping the coaching staff fine-tune their strategies. I think it's great for Sri Lanka that he is part of the mix at this stage. I think in the Middle East you might get a little bit more uniformity, in the pitches, in the conditions, because you're playing in essentially 4 or 5 stadiums, and they're not probably going to change that much. Whereas in India, in the T20 World Cup, the 2016 T20 World Cup, we saw quite a lot of difference from venue to venue. Some were, very, very dirty turners. Others were really good batting surfaces. So I think the UAE and Oman will probably take the extremes out of it a little bit. I also expect, as the tournament goes on, that the square, because so few stadia are being used, I think the square will wear down and maybe become a little bit slower and lower. We saw that happen in Sri Lanka, and we saw it happen in Bangladesh as well during those 2 T20 World Cups. So yeah, those are the conditions I'm expecting, but I don't think there's anything in the conditions that should really worry any teams. They'll be fairly standard Asian conditions, I think. I wouldn't say they're great. I think a lot would have to go right for this team to be in that top 4 in the world. There's a lot of good T20 outfits out there, and there's a lot of T20 players from all around the world who are who have much more experience in these kind of difficult, high pressure situations. This is very much a developing group, and I think that the fact that they are younger the idea is to set them up for World Cups down the line, rather than kind of focus on this World Cup as being the one that they absolutely have to win. If they get to the semi-finals, I think it would be incredible. I don't think too many people are predicting that they will, including myself. But if they do, that would be a great confidence booster for this group of players, and kind of a good validation of the quite strong change in direction that we've seen over the past year under Mickey Arthur and Tom Moody.
Take on the wheels to drive our nation forward with Sri Lanka Insurance Motor Plus, driven by you.
Welcome to Havelock City, home to 18 acres of space at the heart of Colombo. Contact 0772 505 100. Havelock City, a city within a city.